post-game show, and it's late, and I'm fucking tired.
Oh man,
Goodness gracious.
it's fucking early, isn't
I
it?
know this is out of control. I feel like I'm bleary-eyed, man. Yeah, I guess this pretty well covers it, Mario. Win's a win. I'm tired. Uh, this was an interesting football game from the standpoint that we were playing a lame duck. And by the way, what you're seeing, the StreamYard link I'm putting up, and I'm putting up again, this is your way to get into the studio. If you want to be on the program and make comments, you can do that. Just like I'm bringing in Brian right now. Um, what we do on the post game show is we start out by muting our guests' microphones, and you have to listen to me just for a minute. I'm worried about the play calling selection. I really am, and I'm concerned that the Baker Mayfield's going to get hurt if this kind of nonsense continues. I think that's one thing I can say. Uh, uh, you know, and I and I think this is correct. Some of his decisions are worrying, and I think he's very like assured. And I don't know why, but he's hard headed, and I think he's going to do things the way he does them, and I think that's pretty well the deal. And I think that's kind of going to be a strange thing as we go through the year. You can't afford to make these blatantly bad calls in close games, and especially against really quality football teams like the Rams and the Ravens that we have coming up on our schedule. Uh, and Derek is here, and I'm going to bring Tony the Calf into the stream as well, and we'll mute him for just a moment. Um, you know, these are the things. Again, he where are the adjustments in the second half of the football game? I really don't know. Uh, and this I think is a great point by Mr. Fergus. It's feast or famine. It's either run the ball or throw the ball into double, triple coverage. You had another pick doing that when you saw that he had Chubb on the release wide open. You got to take bits and pieces sometimes, especially when a team is playing that kind of a zone defense, and you got to be able to read that zone defense. I think everyone's going to be, Rick is pointing out, these are the things that don't make any sense to me too, Rick. And it was an awkward thing, and his leg was up in the air. He could have gotten that snapped in two. I think the whole offense looks bleh. Still too many penalties, correct. And not only that, but it just doesn't look cogent. It doesn't look like there is a cohesive purpose to this offense. And, and again, I look at the offensive scheme as having something to do with this. And I think Baker's impatience, if I had to guess what happened, and there's Chad making the comment of the day. The big bong rip in honor of Bronx, since it's 4:20 in the morning in England. There's a real Browns fan indeed. There 4:25. How about that? There are things that are of genuine concern to me. I'm going to open it up to some of my panel members. We'll go with Bronk first.
18th of September there.
Hey, Bronk, so you were muted. So tell us what you thought of this football game.
Well, the defense did what exactly I thought they were going to do on the pregame show, where they held them to like fuck all. That's what they had to do, and we got 23 points. But if we had played better, we should have gotten that 41 points that I was banging on about. But we didn't play better. And I think everybody's complaining about Freddie Kitchens' play calling, and absolutely, it sucks big toilet moose water. What the fuck is he doing? And if we're going to run the ball, we need tight ends who can actually block, so Chubb can bounce stuff out.
That may be why he's not running the football, though. I mean, you
That could be it.
wonder.
I mean, because there's no room for him inside. I mean, Chubb has to be a miracle worker to get yards inside the tackles, and then if he bounces stuff out, he gets killed by the safeties. It's just we got the fucking Rams next Sunday. The fucking Rams are not going to be like the fucking Jets. You know, Aaron Donald.
Well, a win's a win. We're going to go over to Brian now. Hey, Brian, what did you think of the game tonight?
Uh, it was about what I expected, honestly, because I'm the one that picked the Browns to only score 19 points, and it was pretty much the pathetic show that I was kind of figuring on, considering last week. And I knew nothing was going to get tuned up within 5 days or whatever, 6 days. So, and now they're on a short week. To compound the Rams coming to town, it's on a short week. So, um, I don't know what the hell Kitchens was doing at the end of the game. I mean, it's you have to be able to run Johnson and Nick Chubb to run out the clock, end the game.
Stay
Right?
healthy.
Why would you want to give Baker Mayfield a concussion?
We'll
Yes,
go.
Brock.
Yeah, Brian.
Okay, quick comment. I mean, when they were running that stupid referee guy, Nick Chubb got absolutely clobbered by their safety.
Yep.
And we didn't even see what happened to him after that play. So luckily, like about 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, when we were done talking about the fucking New Orleans Saints and the referees, Chubb came back on the field. But I was like worried that he was like fucking killed. So the coverage
He had his
sucked.
bell rung. He
Oh
definitely had
yeah,
his.
he was absolutely mullered on that play.
Now, I'm going to bring Tony in here because he's being patient. Tony, what did you think of the game?
I don't see any improvement from last week, to be honest with you. I honestly think if that team that you played had any half-ass talent other than Le'Veon Bell, you would have lost. I mean,
Or it would have been a real close
yeah,
game.
I don't, Luke Falk and Trevor Simeon and throwing to Mike and Ashton Bueller, whoever the fuck was their wide receiver, and it was hard to watch. It was really hard to watch, and I really don't. I mean, they cleaned up a little bit of penalty wise, but other than that, it was pretty much the same team as we saw last week.
Yeah, and these are some of my concerns. Is that I want to see adjustments at halftime. I want to see adjustments from week to week. But there were, when Baker did split the seam on the zone, a big play ensued. But we didn't have a lot of timing plays, and Baker patting the ball down, Baker staying in the pocket too long, Baker kind of rolling out and just, if I had to guess, I'd say that Greg Williams took the middle of the field pretty much away from him. Big play to OBJ, but besides that, the middle of the field was something that we saw last year a lot from Freddie Kitchens and from Baker Mayfield. But when you force him to throw to the sidelines, it's a radically different scenario. Let's just put it that way. Uh, and Derek is saying, yeah, Freddie shouldn't be calling plays. He could be calling plays, but he could be more sensible about it. And it's beginning to look like a perpetual game of 52 pickup. Uh, you know, uh, it's not good enough. It just simply isn't good enough to get the job done. Uh, Here's a question: was it the post-hype sickness still? And no, I think at this point it's a team that is trying to run an offense that it doesn't fully comprehend, and they're not clicking at all on all cylinders. Um, you know, uh, you know, I don't know, 9 more penalties for 85 yards. That's right, Greg. Uh, but still, the first half was maybe a little better. Mac Wilson picked up a helmet to helmet at the end of the game. Um, you know, it's you know, this is yeah, and we know the Steelers got Minka Fitzpatrick, and the Dolphins just keep selling for draft picks, and that's kind of what's going on in Miami. Um, you know, I'm going to open up the mics of all the people right now, and let's take some turns here. What is the what is it that the Browns can take away from this game positively? We'll start with Brian.
A, they got to win. B, Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield can walk off the field. They didn't get carried off the field. But there's a lot of stuff that they have to fix.
All right, and Tony, what's the story? Anything positive to take away from this?
I think positive wise, they get fine, pressure on the quarterback and the offensive line I mean, granted, played a JV team, but Baker Mayfield wasn't really pressured all night, and I think it's small baby steps, but anything positive you can have going against the defending NFC champions next week, take them as you can.
Yeah, for once it was, and I saw something in the game that I wanted to point out because we saw it so much with the Browns during their years of utter futility. The one play that Le'Veon Bell makes, and he fights for extra yardage. Schobert made a really good hit on the ball, and he fumbled it away right into TJ Carey's arms. When players are forced to try to do things too much individually because there's no talent around them, it's impossible. Bad things just seem to happen. Bronk, what can we take away from this?
Hey, can we give some props to Austin Seibert or Seibert, however you want to call him, and the Scottish Hammer? Because if you had Seibert in your fantasy team, he got you 11 points today. So I mean, God damn it, we got a kicker and a punter. So that's why, and they're good, and no one talks about them, and that's how it should be. So that was a plus. And the other thing that was a plus was whenever they did the dink and dunk pass plays, we had 3 guys within about 5 yards of the ball carrier ready to smash them down. So if one person missed, then somebody else came by and picked up the damage. So we're handling the short passes a lot better than we have for years. So the defense, I mean, you can say what you want about Myles Garrett because they spent the entire game talking about him, and it is what it is there. But we actually stopped the Jets from doing fucking anything at all, really.
Yeah, it looked like the tackling had really improved.
Yeah, I mean, and then if one person did miss, they actually managed to slow the guy down enough
And
so
game
that the
tackle,
swarm
right?
could go get him.
Right.
I mean, before we'd have one guy miss and boom, boom.
And
Before
Ward was wrapping up without leading with his head.
well, then Mac Wilson, at the end, I'm surprised he didn't get ejected in the
I put a
last 2
comment
seconds.
up on the screen here from Toby, and I totally agree with this. This was an opportunity to literally obliterate this team.
We
We've
should
been
have won by a
we
lot more.
I mean, the Titans totally crushed us last week. There was no sympathy. This is a game we could have easily put 40 points on the board,
Should have done.
And it's very true what he's saying. This is where, and it may have ended up being a false sense of security, but the fact that they were going in for a touchdown, it's disturbing that we just didn't finish it off. It's like a guy who has a guy hurt and doesn't just finish the KO. Because I've seen it happen to us so many times over the years where we're demoralized and the other team just rams it down our throat. We still looked dazed and confused on offense for whatever reason, and you know, and maybe this is true as a quarterback. Rick brings up a point that maybe Freddie thinks the OL is more of pass protection oriented than run blockers, because I don't understand it. Baker Mayfield completing under 50% of his passes is just not acceptable under any. I mean, in a situation where you can have a balanced running game, that's one thing, but it just doesn't look like there's any real belief in that, and it's a problem.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I picked such a low score, and such a close game, because I knew that Greg Williams was going to have the defense cranked up to 110% of whatever their ability was, and I knew that the Browns would probably be flat in this game because of the length of time between the games.
Yeah, and now Alec has asked me a question. Do I think a win over the Rams will jumpstart the team? Well, I mean, obviously, it would be nice to play a really good game in front of our home crowd, but you know, I'm just kind of it's going to be very difficult for the Browns to playing like this. They're going to have to figure something out.
They just played the Saints, they played in the NFC Championship game, and Aaron Donald absolutely destroyed their offensive line.
Exactly.
And they're a good offensive line.
Yeah, I would say the Saints have a better O-line than we do. Definitely.
Yeah, the next 5 teams the Browns play are 10-0 on the season, so it's going to be a bumpy road.
I mean, we could still be 1-5, dudes.
Yeah, well,
but hey, we got one.
Yeah, you can't complain
one
about
more than we had last year.
You can't complain about our punter. He gets good hang time. Can't complain about our field goal kicker. Not today. So that's good news.
Yeah,
that we can look at.
I
Special teams play in general has been very good. We're not allowing big returns, big plays that way. So that's good.
Yeah, we played the field position game perfectly. You know, they did nothing. They got the ball on the 13-yard line. When they had some sort of stat where they averaged the ball on like 16-yard line, we had on like close to the 40. Now that 20 yards of difference for an entire game adds up to a touchdown. You know, if you have like 20 yards, like 5 possessions in a row, that's a touchdown.
Yeah, well, and ICTV is bringing up another good point. Not just the quick passes, but Nick Chubb's the kind of runner who likes that little hop step and the cutback. And in order to, he has to have field vision. Running him just straight up into a pile of humanity is not the kind of runner that he is. He is the kind of runner who sees that little hole and he sees one step ahead, and he likes to take that little jump step. And we saw just maybe 1 or 2 plays that allowed him this. We have to start, calling the plays that make these players look better, as opposed to, just whatever plays it does almost seem like Freddie has turned into Todd Haley in the sense that he's calling the plays that he's very fond of, but maybe not for the personnel that's on the field. And Kawaki, I'm going to say this, and I said it at halftime. You make a couple of big plays, but if you set us back by making a couple of dumb plays, he has to be able to pick his shots and stop this guessing game. And he has to understand that you can't pile drive a quarterback into the turf. Pat, we're being critical, but I think a lot of us had higher expectations for the offense of this team predicated on the personnel. I don't think the personnel is being utilized to an optimal level. That's all. We're not going to quit the season, but we have to obviously play better if we're going to compete with teams like the Ravens or the Rams. These are quality football teams, and we can't afford, I think OBJ always looks good because I think OBJ is a very talented receiver. He got his little vindication on this day, running up to 21 miles an hour after the catch on a slant, taking it to the house. And again, it just proves to me that if a guy's going to throw a zone defense at you, you've got, those quick hitting passes. If you have people who can run after catch, it's
Yeah.
a smart thing to do. And, not enough of it, just not enough of it.
Yeah, that's the question I had because I saw Higgins was inactive. So what's happened to him? How did he get hurt? Was it last week or during practice? Or
Higgins, at first we heard it was a knee. Then we heard he rolled an ankle. And now they're saying it's a knee again. So I'm a little wary about this. I'm not exactly sure what the injury is. He was actually practicing and then suddenly inactive. I take it Jannard Avery was inactive because we didn't see him
he was
in the course of the game. We did see Chris Smith in the game. We did see Aquale in the game. We did see some people on the field besides the same people taking 92 to 94% of the snaps. So
yeah, it'll definitely be worth getting the NFL.com playbook of the game to see the percentage of snaps on defense and stuff, and amongst the wide receivers, because Baker did not trust throwing the ball to that Taylor or even to Ratley.
Tavon Taylor is not going to really help this team very much. Ratley made a nice catch and run, but I think
Ratley also took a big fucking hit in the back too.
Yeah, he did. So he got killed.
Yeah. Now,
and when you're playing on turf, they're driving you're not only taking the hit, but you're taking the hit from the ground too.
Sure.
So,
and do you think there are times where we play down to the competition? What I've learned going 1-15 and 0-16 in all the years since the Browns came back in 1999, nobody feels sorry for anybody. And, you got to take these situations and, you don't see the Patriots, you didn't see the Ravens feeling sorry for the Dolphins or the Patriots feeling sorry for the Steelers or, the truth of the matter is that when you have somebody down, you pin them. You don't allow, and this is part of the toughness of the game. It's a rough game.
Who is their TV on in the background or whatever it is?
I think it's Tony the Calf.
Probably in my hotel. Let me mute that.
Yeah. Mario was saying the game changed when we went for it and got it on fourth.
Better, Brock.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know that this game really ever changed. I just think I breathed easier after the OBJ touchdown catch, because I knew that they weren't going to put up 23 points. But, I mean, that game was really at 16-3 for too damn long.
Yeah, and a good team would have come back on us. But, the Jets, they're sad now. They're fighting the Dolphins for the number one pick.
Yeah, and, looking ahead, we're going to be 1-3. If we're 1-3, forget it. You're not going anywhere. The Ravens are a much better football team this year, it looks, than they were last year. And that's something that I don't know that any of us really anticipated. But this is going to be a strong football team because, if their quarterback is showing all the signs of understanding what's expected of him, playing within himself and doing the things athletically, running the ball that he's good at, and continuing to throw to the tight ends. And he's also showing a little bit of ability to throw to his wideouts. And then they're running the football, but they're just hard to move the ball against. They keep giving the ball back to their offense and just eating up clock, and it's very hard to beat that team.
The Ravens aren't just running the ball. They're running the ball for like 200 yards per game. That's really what they're doing. And that running that that they're doing with Ingram and then also with Jackson is setting up the passing attack, which is also going for like 250 yards. So they're putting up close to 500 yards of offense the past 2 weeks.
Pittsburgh loading up on defense isn't going to help us much when we play them either. And we play them within, 5 days or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Fox is asking this question, and is he the quarterback we think he is? I think he's a gunslinger. I think he's got to become a little smarter on the field. He's young. They did point out he hasn't played 16 games yet. He's seeing different things this year, and he's got to figure them out. People are going to throw things at him. They're going to take that middle of the field away, and they're going to force him to be confused in the pocket, and then force him to roll out and throw on the run. And he's got to discern when to take chances and when not to. I'm not going to tell you that Baker's not a good quarterback, but I'll tell you that teams are scheming for him better this year than they did.
They figured him out a bit. And that interception, though, I think the guy went over the top on Beckham and tipped the ball. I think he was early on that play, but it never got called. So,
and as far as the Ravens looking suspect against the Cards, I mean, the young rookie quarterback, Kyler Murray had a nice game, but the truth of the matter is that when they needed to make the play, I mean, the one throw that was made, that was caught by Marquise Brown, was a beautiful, beautiful sideline over the shoulder, right in the basket pass by Lamar Jackson. And honestly, they made every big play they needed to make. They win close when they play close. And what I notice about teams is that their defense stiffened, and they didn't let the Cards get back on that game. I'm not saying if people are bailing on Baker, I think that we should be more questioning the offensive scheme, who's in charge of it, and who is, I think that there are more questions in that regard. And Cindy brings up a good point. Christian Kirksey did play a good game. For the most part, they did not allow a lot of yardage after contact, and I think that's great. And again, I think the Ravens are the problem, and the problem here is that if we have to get in via a wild card situation, we're going to have to play a higher level of football, because there's a lot of. I really don't think that the Titans are much above a 500 team, and look what they did to us. And we have to just be better than that. There's a lot of teams in the vast middle. You have to be better than those in order to make that next step. And right now, we're playing like a team that is uncertain of its identity offensively. This will be repeated over and over again. He was considered a good play caller last year, but a lot of it was just...
There's a lot of Sandlot plays that worked out.
Yeah, imaginative kinds of things. And now, I don't know, it just looks like some of the calls, it's like I'm just shaking my head saying, why would we do that? It's... and this is a good question also. Nothing was said after Chubb got hit. All I saw, he was shaking his head, and I hope he doesn't have a concussion, because it looked like he was on a knee, and the camera cut away, and we heard kind of whistles, and he was woozy.
Exactly. Yeah, then they cut away and chat to that referee bloke. That was very bad coverage in part of
what Greg Williams will say after the game is that he's received 47 offers. And this was the single greatest reaction, watching him get upset on that 89-yard pass to OBJ. Greg Williams is a grandstander. He's overly emotional, and he was immediately going to show the world that he was upset at his team for not picking up a certain receiver or whatever. But
Well, Moo, you said earlier today. I mean, if he couldn't beat out Adam Gase for the fucking job, for the head coaching job, then what sort of shithead is he? He's an idiot, Greg Williams. I'm just glad he's not our coach.
and this is what I said before the game. It was a lose-lose situation. If we had wound up even not playing great but getting a 34-3 win, then people would say, well, we put up 34 points. But the fact that Baker was under 50% on completions and threw another interception on an ill-advised throw, it's right. We were gifted this game in essence by having to play a third-string quarterback, and believe me, Trevor Siemian was not exactly a backup.
I think Peter Falk with his one eye was better than Simeon. Columbo.
I just think that.
Come on, quit bagging on Luke Falk. He was pretty fucking decent at Washington.
Hey, he had the serious cash going on. He had the 70s porn star look going on. I was impressed by that. Yeah.
Yeah, and but yeah, this was a situation where you weren't going to win even if you won, because when Darnold went down and then Godwin, Simeon went down, you're playing nobody, and and this is exactly right. We kind of overachieved last year, and this year it kind of feels like, to me, it just feels like that Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry just don't have a really good chemistry, and I don't know what's up with that. But it was true last year, and it's kind of true this year too.
Well, we spent the whole
to quote Bronk, it's 2008 all over again. Everybody should die.
Exactly. But anyway, no, at the beginning of last year, we targeted Landry about 12 times per game, and we ended up being 2-6. So 2-6-1. So,
So
what can you say about that?
I have a question, and maybe I just don't follow the team close enough. Why is your number 2 wide receiver returning punts?
Well, for one thing, I mean, the guy, Dontrell Hilliard, who's a hands guy, if you watch Dearness Johnson fumbled a couple of punts in the preseason, and they wanted a hands guy out there, and he is not a burst of speed, but he actually professionally returned the punts. We didn't have penalties on punt returns, and it gave us some good field position. I don't have a problem.
Landry also volunteered.
Yeah.
Went to Mike Prefer and volunteered.
Well, and he actually did the same thing last year. He's a real good hands guy.
Okay.
You can't afford to make big mistakes, and we obviously don't feel comfortable with Dearness Johnson back there. And again, here are your stats. 4 returns, 48 yards, but the receiving only 3 for 32. He's just being left out of the game plan, not being found when he is being thrown to. The passes are not, he and the passes are not in sync, so it looks like he and Baker are half a tick off. We hope that this is the case, but I think the Ravens defense is pretty damn good. That's what I think. And this, of course, we know too. There are going to be a lot of teams that are 500. And they're going to take turns swapping, beating one another. But you got to be better than that. So, when I walk away from with this, thank you, Toby. I try to keep things as real as I possibly can. I'm happy we won. I think we could have done better. I think that I would feel more confident if Baker appeared more comfortable in the offensive scheme, and I would feel more comfortable if Freddie Kitchens was able to communicate to people, like to Myles Garrett, not to take so many chances, and to Baker to check down and not take so many chances. Let's move the chains. Let's hold on to the ball, because before we hit the 89-yard play, there was too much of our offense leaving the field and our defense being forced to come out on the field. We should have been controlling the time better and trying to institute longer drives and trying to figure out ways to run some clock in a game that was obviously a low-scoring game for the most part. You know, so you know. Well, I mean, this is he wasn't there to return him; he was there to catch him. All right, that's the explanation for that. Uh, you know, well, I mean, you're going to take sides. I think that Baker's not been great this year, but I think that I don't know. It's hard for me to say, but it doesn't look like this offense is tailored to what we need out there.
The question for the panel: what sort of mood is the stadium going to be in for Sunday night's game with the Rams? Is the crowd going to be apprehensive? Is it going to be excited? Is it going to be rocking? Because I don't know what mood I'm in.
Well, I mean, I really think that what I said before this game is that Jets fans were probably appalled when they saw Trevor Siemian, who has a 13 and now 12 record as a starting quarterback, and he looked like literally a deer in the headlights. He really looked in the pocket like he was just dead-eyed,
He looked like Colonel Hogan when he was quarterbacking the Browns a few years ago.
Yeah. Now, here's a good question. If you could have one, Trent Williams or Jalen Ramsey, I would take
Trent Williams.
Without a question. Trent Williams would be the guy if you could get your hands on him, because our offensive line is a hurting bunch of puppies, man. We could use some more talent up there. And these are interesting things. I think Rashard Higgins is more important to this offense than perhaps.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's more important to Baker's confidence.
Yep.
Because he knows exactly what Higgins is going to do and how he breaks out of cuts and that kind of thing. And he actually makes his body, shows his body to Mayfield, so he has something to throw at.
Yeah, the body's in front of the defender so that nothing can really go wrong.
And Kareem Hunt is allowed to punch and kick women as long as he plays for the Patriots. Okay, that's the answer to your question. And Mr. Fergus, I'm glad but that could be an indication.
That's my advice to you, Mr. Fergus.
If you're alone in doing that, that could be the sign of a problem. So watch yourself. And again, it's all how the game begins. And I called this that the Jets fans, I think, were just mystified at how bad they were. And we've had games like that in Cleveland where we just hold our heads and go, God, we couldn't possibly be that bad, could we? And there's not a single fan that's coming home from that game thinking, God, I can't wait to see the next game. I mean, it's really ruthless. The league
that
is
looked
tough.
Like a Browns game in 2017, that Jets crowd. They looked like they were ready to put a brown bag over their head.
Yeah.
I think the Sunday night game, I think people will show out for that because it is such a special kind of an event. But I just hope that somebody from the Browns decides to show up. And the next time he gets a roughing the passer, I hope that Myles Garrett is buried under the bench the way he was in the preseason.
Yeah, I think the Patriots would have dropped 50 on them.
Yeah.
Just like the Ravens put 59 on the Dolphins. I mean, this is a kind of.
Especially now that he gets to feed two speedy receivers that are head cases.
Yeah.
It's like having two Randy Mosses.
All right, I'm done. I got to get to bed, man. I'm tired. It's been a long day. And you too, Bronk. Get some rest. And thanks to everybody for tuning in to this post-game show. I just want to say in closing, the things that I always say is a win is better than a loss. I'm not being unduly negative. We could have been better, and Baker could have been better. I still think that there is a more imaginative running game that we could run and get more out of Nick Chubb, throwing to him out of the backfield. There's a lot of things that we can do better, and we're going to have to figure them out real quick because, well, we have another nighttime game coming up next week against the Rams, right? And that's Sunday night football, and and that's gonna
That was a big one.
another homecoming for the Browns and a chance to show the fans that we can get excited about something and beat a real football team, because the Jets are not a real football team, not by any stretch of the imagination right now. It's
Definitely not without Darnold.
Yeah, it's definitely ugly. Thanks,
and
everybody.
Can I say one thing before we go?
Yes.
For all those people that like Nathan Zagura, who complain about, oh, we shouldn't have a preseason. Well, you know what? The Browns are playing their motherfucking preseason games in the regular season because nobody fucking played together.
No,
and this is the shit show we get. So fuck you, and fuck you some more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't
Now
really. No, I really can't say that. I think that was true first week, but what we're seeing the second week is indicative of a team that's just not comfortable with the offense they're running, and
they're not comfortable playing together.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it's all part and parcel of the system you're running, and the guy calling the plays, and right now it looks a little complicated. We'll see what happens, but at any rate, I got to get out. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again on Moohead Radio. That'll be coming at the end of the week on Friday, and we'll be talking about next Sunday's game and what might happen then. So thanks to the people on the panel. I appreciate it as always. And let's go to sleep. Hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Good night.
Later.